Okay, let's not even muck around today. This Roman Reigns Edge storyline is so good because Roman is so self-conscious and so secretly scared of the world, he's now worried that the Royal Rumble winner Edge may not choose him, and that means he's not the real main event of WrestleMania. I mean, that dude needs to go get some help. And we are going to talk about that and a hell of a lot more because the latest episode of WWE SmackDown is in the books. So before we can send it away to its grave, whatever the hell that means, my name is Simon Miller, you are watching WhatCulture Wrestling, and it's time to give the good bits an up and the bad bits a down. So with all that out the way, let's up those downs for SmackDown. So yeah, Edge did kick off SmackDown this week, and maybe my brain is portraying me, but I don't remember seeing the rated R superstar on Raw, so now I'm convinced at WrestleMania 37 we are indeed doing Edge versus the crazy one known as Roman Reigns. And that is what Edge was talking about here as well, saying, well, it could be Roman Reigns, well, it could be Drew McIntyre, it could be AJ Styles, hell, it could even be Sami Zayn, which is why he's going to be watching on Sunday night, and then he'll make his big reveal on Monday when we get to Raw. And I was a little bit worried because before we got to that point, Edge acted like he was actually going to ponder all of this in the ring. And I was like, Edge, don't do it now. That's really boring TV. But then, of course, he got interrupted by our tribal chief. Roman still doesn't like Edge because Roman doesn't like anyone, and he accused Edge of being scared. And then Edge was like, ha ha, I'm not scared, but I have got in your head because you think that I snuck into your house and that I sat at the head of the table. He didn't say that, but let's face it, if you really want to upset Roman, you probably should have done. The whole point, though, is that Edge isn't scared of Roman. Roman is terrified again because he thinks, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to tell my family if I'm not the main event of WrestleMania? Then, at that very moment, out came Sami Zayn. Oh boy. As ever, though, he is just gold. He was sick and tired of being ignored. He is sick and tired of this conspiracy theory, and he told his documentary makers to get a shot of him pointing at the WrestleMania sign. Sami Zayn, ladies and gentlemen, secretly the best person in world wrestling entertainment. He unfortunately soon got super kicked, and I guess that was always going to happen. And throughout all of this, Edge and Roman Reigns were just staring at each other. I think they were playing that game where you're not allowed to blink, and of course, even when it comes to a child's game like that, neither man wants to lose. But then Roman went up to Edge, he whispered something in his ear, and then he left. And I can only assume he went, if you ever go to my house and sit at my table, I will kill you. All of this is great though, I'm super psyched if we are heading in this direction, and actually, I wouldn't mind Edge losing, because there's something poetically tragic about all of that. But it's getting it up. Interestingly, Shinsuke Nakamura then beat Apollo Crews. And if you go on the internet, all you see is articles going, Shinsuke Nakamura's not going to get any kind of a push. Well, he's being pushed more than he was a few weeks ago, and therefore I'm giving it up. Big E was on commentary, so as ever, he was lying on a couch and just eating a bunch of food because Big E is the greatest man on the planet. And then before we had this match, we cut to the back where Apollo Crews was being interviewed, and I think he's starting to lose his damn mind. Because he feels like, one, he was disrespected by Big E last week, but also two, his ancestors were Nigerian royalty, and if Big E had done this to them back in the day, they would have chopped off his tongue. And I was like, all right, Apollo, I mean, back in the day, people also used to get their heads chopped off by guillotines. Do you want to do that? You just want to walk into the ring with a big guillotine and behead someone? I mean, given what was about to happen, he probably would have said yes. Big E then kept mentioning throughout all of this how he wasn't going to give the tongue slicer another shot because he believes people like Shinsuke Nakamura deserve it more. And just as he was saying these words, Shinsuke used the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up. And yeah, like I say, he beat Apollo Crews. But then Flood Me did this level up fast, because not only did Apollo Crews absolutely destroy Nakamura, but when he got in the face of Big E and looked like he was going to walk away, no, he did not. He picked up the steel stairs and essentially murdered our Intercontinental Champion. And surely this now means that Apollo Crews has properly gone heel. I mean, Big E was laying on the floor at one point and Apollo just chucked the steel stairs over the top rope onto him, and it was so bad, Big E had to be stretchered out. So we are getting into some kind of blood feud with these two, and I'm gonna lie, I am all here from it. They're both really talented performers, and this story is now kind of junking in a position I wasn't expecting. I am entertained. Also, Cruz now has to win the Intercontinental title. I know I always say this, but there's nothing more dumb than a wrestler going, oh, I'm in the dark side now, electric power, lightning from my fingers, and then they don't achieve anything. Because like, well, great, you threw out all your morals, and where did it get you? Nowhere. So as long as he does win a championship, he can go, ha, see, now I'm a dick, but at least it worked. This really is a great angle, however, and I also love these three going at it. I hope it builds to something big. Idiot. Seth Rollins then arrived on the scene, and he used all of this just to remind you what a massive asshole he is. He is getting up. For starters, I am loving his new character trait of a dude who just wears whatever the hell he wants. Like last week, he was in some kind of rainy wetsuit, and this week, it just looked like he turned up to SmackDown wearing a rug. His point too was that everything that just happened to Big E was proof about how much the SmackDown roster sucks. Because he came out here last week to address them all thinking they were his friends, and what did they all do? They spat in his face, they didn't listen to his ideas, and they walked out. And he is so upset about this, he has sent a letter to WWE lawyers because everyone ruined his big return. And you can read this letter on social media. You should. Seth Rollins is the man. It also means he now realizes that everybody is his enemy, but no one more so than Cesaro. And that's when I got all these like awesome feelings in my tum-tum, because we are actually headed towards Seth Rollins and Cesaro. And if you do not want that match, then you're never allowed to come right to my house for dinner, because we ain't gonna have anything in common. Bryan's then ranted on like the crazy person that he is, and honestly, all of this was so good, I will admit I was wrong. I wanted Seth to come back as the good guy and be like, man, I'm here for you people. From that, I want the rug-wearing maniac who has some kind of crazy vision. They then just had a nice segment between Edge and Kevin Owens. They bumped into each other backstage, and Kevin was like, oh, if I win the Elimination Chamber and the title, we could main event WrestleMania. And Edge was like, man, that would be swell. We could also have a hug. And I won't lie, we're not going to go in that direction, but if we did, I would be here for it. Kevin Owens versus Edge is a match I need to see. We were then really selling this Big E injury hard as well, because we then cut to Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce running through the backstage arena going, get out of the way, get out of the way, because they desperately needed to get the IC champ into the ambulance. So where's it gonna go? What's next? All we do know for now is that Apollo Crews is a massive bell. And then Tamina, and don't forget No One Is Meaner, and Natalya were having a tag team match against the Riot Squad. And I think the sole reason for this is that Tamina and Natalya have been watching Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott at like weird angles backstage when they look at the television, and I was like, oh, okay, and now it's just resulted in a match. Down. Just felt like we could have embedded more story within this, especially what's about to happen to the tag team title division in around about 5 minutes time, and it certainly wasn't bad, but yeah, it was a bit like poof, there it is. What changed all of that, however, was the finish. Up. Why? Because out came Billie Kay this week in a Tamina t-shirt, and she caused the distraction that allowed Natalya and Tamina to get the win. Now quickly, let's get some business out the way. Down it comes, there's the distraction board. It's up to 28, but I am biased towards Billie Kay. She makes me laugh. The best part was, just as Billie tried to celebrate with these two, because of course she had helped out, she forgot that nobody is meaner than Tamina, who super kicked her, and then everybody left. And I don't know if the idea here is to make Billie Kay the most sympathetic figure in all of WWE, but we're doing a damn decent job. I mean, she has absolutely no friends, but damn it, she is trying. Then had another nice segment backstage, but this time it was between Edge and Baron Corbin, although obviously Baron Corbin is portrayed as a massive moron, so these two didn't really get on. But once more we were teasing, oh, maybe one day we'll do Edge versus Baron Corbin, and I'm all right with that as well. This is why it's so cool that Edge is back. There's so many fights that I need to see with my eyes. Corbin was also going on about his expensive lifestyle here, saying I got a $10,000 suit, my watch is worth 39 grand. I actually think we should run with this. The King character kind of feels like it's run out of steam, but yeah, he played this quite well. So I'm putting my hand up and saying, give me this. Ding Dong Hello was then back, which is of course Bayley's brand new talk show. But where the hell did it go? We had one about 7-8 weeks ago, and then no one said a word. And all I'll say is that it was interesting. With that all said though, the first thing that Bayley did was come smashing through the door, and she knocked over a plant. I just started to laugh. She's such a goof. She's such a moron. She is so dumb. I can't help myself, I'm giving it up. Yep, that's right, I'm now giving ups for prop jokes, but you can't stop me, I'm running wild. Then kind of fell off the rails a little bit because her guests were Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, And when Bayley invited them to come through the door, they basically tried to go through at the same time. And all I could think to myself was, man, that is Shayna Baszler. She should be out here killing fools. And when she debuted on the main roster, she'd being a vampire and biting people's necks. And now she can't even get through a door. WWE did kind of tie up some loose ends here though, which I did appreciate, because Nia Jax was like, oh Bayley, thanks for having us on the show. I really hope you don't hold the fact that we took these tag team titles from you and Sasha Banks away. And Bells, without skipping a beat, went, nah man, I wanted to get away with Sasha, so you did me a favour. I kind of liked it. They all then started ripping into Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair when out came Reginald, who once again is trying to support Sasha Banks. And I can't get my head around it. I'm like, Sasha, if you start buying into this, if you're that gullible, I'm gonna just have to regrow my hair. Because of course it's obvious gubbins, and thankfully when Sasha did come out to talk about all this, she looked at Reg and went, look, I don't need you to talk for me. I am the women's division, and anybody who gets in my way is going to lose. Good, I want this kind of confidence from my champion. Belair was then out too, and they all started to yell at each other, when all of a sudden Reginald was like, oh look, I have secret magic making powers, it should be us three versus you three. And if you can actually believe it, that match took place. So I was like, man, everyone better be nice to Reggie from now on. Who the hell knows how high up the hierarchy he is? But as for this match, actually quite fun. Now apparently the idea behind all of this is that Reginald now has a crush on Sasha Banks, but come on, pull the other one, I ain't that gullible. And he was just flipping around the place here before he got absolutely waylaid by Nia Jax. And if you were hoping for some intergender action, that just ain't what WWE does. My favourite part about all of it was that Bayley wasn't intending to be in a match, so she was dressed up in her Hello Ding Dong gear. And honestly, I think there's something in this. If Bray Wyatt can pay a kids' TV host and a crazy clown psychopath, I think Bayley should be allowed to do this. We also had to have Nia Jax miss a leg drop, which of course had Corey Graves tell a tailbone joke. And thankfully that was the only whole reference of this show, so hopefully we're laying to bed because it is time to move on. And when Banks and Belair stopped Shayna Baszler from tagging in, Reginald went for a crossbody on Nia Jax. She caught him. Bianca and Sasha then hit him with the double drop kick, which for some reason allowed him to pin Nia Jax for the 1, 2, 3. So that's right, this was the finish of the match. Reginald beat Nia Jax. This was treated like a massive shock, and I suppose that it was. But it also tied into the fact that at the Elimination Chamber, we are going to have the Tag Team Championships on the line as Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax defend them against Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. And if I was Reggie, I'd be like, excuse me, what am I getting for winning this damn thing? What I am going to do, though, is make a judgment about this on Monday. Why? Well, it's simple. I've already told you time and time again that I don't really like it when we combine the Women's Championship with the Tag Team Championships, because it just gets lost in the mud. And it was fine when we did it with Sasha Banks and Bayley. That worked, but we already done it recently. And then ever since we've done it again and again and again. I mean, look how it helped Oscar with Charlotte Flair. That's right, it didn't. I'm just worried we're running the concept into the ground. However, there may be a plan here, so I can't call it till I see it. And ultimately, what I did realise is that every week that goes by, I am enjoying and liking Reginald more and more. So that's got to be something. Cesaro was the next guy up for the Edge treatment, but before we did get there, Cesaro said that he's going to win the Elimination Chamber and that he's going to whip Seth Rollins' ass. And once again, if we actually did do Edge versus Cesaro at WrestleMania, I would be a happy pup. But of course we're not. It was then back to the craziest thing that has happened on SmackDown for some time. It was Chad Gable and Otis taking on the Mysterios, and well down. And Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler were on commentary, and they were drinking from red Solo cups here, which apparently was meant to be an insult towards the Street Profits, and I was a bit like, boys, I'm pretty sure you can come up with a better insult than that. The coolest part of all of this is that Otis just kicked everybody's ass. He kicked Rey Mysterio's ass, he kicked Dominic Mysterio's ass. I was having a rollicking good time because, of course, deep down in our loins, we all love Otis. But then from nowhere, I think just because Chad Gable had been in the ring for a little while, the referee said, oh no, it's got to be a DQ. And even Bobby and Dolph, or Dobby, were confused by this as well. And the commentators, they were like, well, maybe he didn't answer the count to 5, or maybe it's because he didn't tag out. I had no clue what the hell was happening. What I do know, though, is that afterwards, Chad and Otis got so pissed off that they laid Rey Mysterio on the floor, and Otis gave him quite a good devastating splash from the second rope, and this was sold like Otis, the man I love from my loins, is now a bad guy. There's also a disqualification, so quickly let's bring it down and mark it up to 14, because that's only fair. But who the hell wants Otis as a villain? I don't. I actually think he's impossible to hate. Look, I understand the story here. The point is Chad Gable is meant to be basically gaslighting Otis, and now he's turned him to the dark side, but that has not been told well enough, and all of this was just a higgledy-piggledy mess. Also, it didn't work because we'd already done it for Apollo Crews earlier in the night, so it was like second time around, and you should never do that. But two, did we learn nothing from Tucker? Tucker turned heel and he vanished into some kind of a hole. So I need to see what the hell WWE has planned here, but I just don't want Otis as a heel. It's as simple as that. Down. I think I may have just given it 2 downs. It's just 1 down. I'm just very upset. Edge loving segment number 4 was next, and this time it was Daniel Bryan, and everyone's like, oh, maybe we're going to do Daniel Bryan versus Edge at WrestleMania. I'm not going to go over it again. You already know how I feel, but once more, do I want to see it? The answer is yes. We then saw Dominic try to help Rey Mysterio to the back, so we're absolutely selling it like Otis tried to kill him. And then we just had a lovely segment between Daniel Bryan, Cesaro, and Kevin Owens, because they're going to be teaming in our main event. But Daniel and Cesaro were all like, oh, there's Kevin, he's going to turn on us, because he turns on everyone. And even though Owens was trying to say, no, I'm not going to do that, it's not the right time, but maybe in the future I will, Daniel Bryan finished it by running off a bunch of people he has screwed over, and then saying, there's one more I've forgotten, if only I had a list. And of course, that was a reference to Chris Jericho. I got it, and I felt like a special little child. We then almost had the worst segment in history. Thankfully, we didn't. In short, Reginald was handing Carmella a drink, and she was like, why the hell did it take you 72 years to get me a wine? And he was like, oh, just trying to get it to the right temperature. And for a split second, it looked like Carmella was going to buy this, even though Reginald had just had a match on international TV. She's not that dumb, thank goodness, because she was aware of all of this because she does watch the show, and Reginald's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it. Now, I guess we're supposed to think they're about to implode, but I don't buy it. I think it's a ruse. Our main event was then here, and it was Bryan, Cesaro, and Kevin Owens taking on Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, and Baron Corbin, because of course these guys are in the Elimination Chamber, and it was so good, I give a round of applause to them all. Edge was on commentary here as well because, of course, and I just want to say that I really enjoyed Baron Corbin in this match. At one point, he was going to take on Cesaro, like, oh man, I'll take on that bald superhero. But instead, he tagged out to Sami Zayn because he's a little bit of a coward and he's a little bit of a scared cat. You need characters like that. I don't want everyone to be super cool. I appreciated it. It didn't even hurt at first because the bad guys were in control, but of course they are bad guys, so you know the rules. If you're villains and you try and get along, you're going to start arguing, but if you're good guys, it's all peaches and cream, and you just want to go skipping in the fields. It did allow Cesaro to get the first hot tag of the evening, and my word, he is just on fire right now. He hit so many uppercuts, I thought Sagat was about to turn up. Uso, Corbin, and Zayn were then rowing to the point that Uso and Corbin just grabbed Sami and chucked him in the ring, and Cesaro grabbed him and gave him the big swing. And then Baron decided, right, I'm going to get in there finally. And do you know what Cesaro did to him? He also gave him the big swing, and that was a damn impressive visual. Paul Heyman also joined Edge for commentary halfway through this, and those two were absolutely brilliant as well. I totally believed every single word I was hearing, and it was then down to Daniel Bryan and Sami Zayn, who just had a really good wrestling match, especially a near fall off this blue thunder bomb. Cesaro had to break it up at the last second. Throughout that too, Kevin Owens was diving off the apron with a cannonball, and that looked absolutely devastating. And then Daniel Bryan gave Sami Zayn a superplex from the top, and when they fell to the mat, he instantly transitioned into a yes lock, and it meant Sami had to tap out. That may be the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. Given what was going to happen on Sunday too, we got our traditional wrestling match segment, and if I try and go through it bit by bit, I'll get it wrong. But essentially, one guy hit their move on the other move, and then turned around into the other guy who hit their move, and they turned around to the other guy who hit their move. But the crazy part is that after Jey Uso had smashed out his super kick, Edge was off commentary, and he gave him the spear, and then when he turned around, Roman Reigns had used his Star Trek ship teleporter to appear in the ring, and he smashed the Rated R superstar with a spear of his own. I mean, that was so good and made me go, I don't believe it, because I wasn't ready, and SmackDown ended with Roman Reigns standing tall over Edge, so come on. If we're not doing this at WrestleMania 36, we have lost our damn minds, and I'm invested now. You've done such a good job. And before we do finish as well, I just need to mention the best commentary line we've had so far in 2021. Because when Cesaro had his hot tag and he was running wild, Michael Cole went, there he is, Cesaro, the hottest guy in WWE. Now I know he meant momentum-wise, but because I'm a child, I thought Michael was using this moment to say, man, what a good-looking chap. It really made me laugh. Which did bring us to the end of the show, like I say, and it's not even hard when it comes to SmackDown. Their momentum is through the roof, and given that roofs are high, is getting it up. I don't know what that meant. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of SmackDown. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Head over to WhatCulture.com where you can read articles also about SmackDown. Just search social media for WhatCulture and you'll find us too. Give us a follow, and as there are videos around my head, click one and give it a watch. My name is Simon for WhatCulture. Thank you for watching me as always, and it's a pleasure to see my bald brother Cesaro running through SmackDown right now. I hope he wins everything, but sadly I don't think he will.